What's going on, Niner fam? Long time no see. And yes, the 49ers got a victory today versus the Buccaneers, 23-20. Can we really say we're happy? Totally, absolutely not. Absolutely not. There was a lot it's the same team. After the bye week with Christian McCaffrey, I didn't see any difference. I saw them struggle and be wishy-washy and just in different ways with Christian McCaffrey out there. But we're going to get into it, and this is the Instant Reaction Show, Niner Fanatic Podcast. Let's go.
Ladies and gentlemen,
I'd like to know,
are you ready for start time?
And once again, this is the Niner Fanatic Podcast. I am Peter Lucas. And make sure you give the video a like. Make sure that you give it a subscribe. Make sure that you hit the bell so you get the notifications for when I go live. And yeah, 49ers beat the Buccaneers 23-20. Should not have been close. It should not have been close. This was it was just a typical 2024 49er game that we've been watching all season long. A bunch of wishy-washiness, playing down to their competition, can't finish in the red zone. We should be happy about a victory, and I guess I am. But the way that they won, and I was really tempted to not say anything about Jake Moody, because at this point, what's there to be said? People will sit there and point to his numbers and say that he has been consistent and he's done just as good as most kickers and blah 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 blah. I don't care. He has one of the best jobs in the league. He's going to get multiple opportunities to get to make kicks. He just, when we need him the more often than not, he doesn't come through. And this is why you don't pick a kicker in the third round. If we wouldn't even be talking about Jake Moody if he wasn't picked in the third round. Nobody would even most people wouldn't even know his name if he wasn't picked in the third round. I'm not going to go into it any more than that. I think if you've watched my show at all, you know how I feel about Jake Moody. I think that the pick was a mistake. I still think the pick was a mistake. I still think the 49ers have made a lot of mistakes in the draft. And as far as this draft class right here, just because they had one good draft class that has been stellar so far. Let's just give these guys their due. It doesn't forgive the 2 to 3 seasons of just bad drafts. Plain old bad drafts. Lucking up and finding Brock Purdy in the 7th round at the last pick of the draft does not absolve you from just being terrible at drafting players and picking guys that are on nobody's draft boards and just having your own your ridiculous process. But before I get into it, thank you, Jesus, for coming through. Appreciate you coming through, fam. Jesus says Niners defense trash and Moody. And then he also says red zone still an issue. I'm tempted. I would be tempted to agree with you about the defense because of the one drive where they could not stop the run at all. But then you look at the numbers. And if you look at the numbers of this game, you would venture to say the 49ers ran away with this game. But the reality is they ran up and down the field and could not punch the ball in the end zone. They couldn't even get field goals. So when we say red zone's an issue, it's not even just an issue. We can't even get field goals now. We get rid of we have two kickers that are here instead of Moody and have no problems with those kickers. Carlson, for all intents and purposes, was a stud throughout his two games. And we go right to Moody. Guess what happens? Guess what happens? And special teams still is just terrible. I would say a majority of our issues with this 49er team are really just about. I still think that the teams have figured out Kyle Shanahan's offense. I'm going to be real with you. Whether the bean counters out there want to admit it or not, because this is what I'm tired of seeing on Twitter, and I don't want to call out any content creators because I believe we're all a team and we're all and but there are some bean counters out there and on Twitter, and especially on Twitter, that will give you all the statistics and all the DVOAs and all the other stuff that say that Shanny's this and Shanny's that. The offense, it's Brock's job to do this, and this. It all falls on the coach. Anybody that's watching football for any amount of time will tell you that execution falls on the coach. If it was one player that wasn't executing, you could blame that player. If it's two players that aren't executing, that's on those two players. When it is an entire offense that cannot perform in the red zone, that is a coaching issue. When the special teams cannot perform at all, that is a coaching issue. When the defense is, at this point, I think we can say that scheme is outdated. That's a coaching issue. But I don't even blame this game on the defense. And you want to know why I don't blame this game on the defense is because Baker Mayfield went 18 to 29 for 116 yards. 116 yards. And you would say, oh, they just got ran all over, right? They gave up 110 yards rushing. They gave up 110 yards rushing total. Now, one of their running backs, Bucky Irving, averaged 5.6 yards a carry. That is on the defense. And it was really, a majority of it was on one drive. So when we're sitting here saying, and they only scored 20 points. And the 49ers have who on their squad? They've got Deebo Samuel. This was a team that had nobody but their running backs. They didn't have any wide receivers. And they had Baker Mayfield at quarterback. And I don't care how many ways you want to shine him up and make him seem like he's this, that, and the third. Baker Mayfield is not a great quarterback. He's not a great quarterback. I wouldn't even call him good. I would say he's a solid starter if you want to label him that. But he's not a guy that's going to take over a game at all. So, and especially not without his weapons. And it showed right there, 116 yards. So it wasn't Baker Mayfield. Well, I think we can say that. The running game, they got a majority of their rushing yards on one, maybe two drives. The problem with this team, and let's go over some other stats before I get into the problem of this team, is Brock Purdy goes 25 of 36 for 353 yards, 2 touchdowns. Now, if I told you that he had that stat line and that Baker Mayfield had his stat line where he only had 116 yards and 1 touchdown, you would say, oh, 49ers probably ran away with this game. But that wasn't the case because guess what the 49ers did in the running game? Christian McCaffrey, newly back, we're all excited. He's supposed to unlock the offense. And people are going to give him excuses as to, it's first game back. And, they had to ease him in. He had 13 carries for 39 yards. And for the most part, I don't even blame him. He didn't actually look too bad. The blocking was terrible. The run blocking was terrible. We can say that honestly. The pass blocking actually wasn't too bad, but this goes back to the draft. The last in Kyle's first 3 or 4 years here, he only wanted offensive linemen that could run block, and we criticized him for it, that he never got anybody that could pass block. Now he's flipped the script. Now he only wants guys that can pass block. And even those guys, they're really not that great at pass blocking, but they've done an admirable job, I would say. But now the these defenses have caught up to his scheme, and not even his scheme. It's the play calling and the rules. Like I'm trying to see how to frame this, because it really comes down to he doesn't give. There's an artificial ceiling on this offense. We've been talking about it for over a year now on this show. There's an artificial ceiling because Brock is not allowed to call his own protections. They put that on the center. He's not moving guys around to create favorable matchups. That's not a thing either, because Kyle will tell you that the answer is in the play. And he just needs to find the hot. Well, look at where we are as an offense. And people will point to the rankings of DVOA and all this stuff. I don't care. They're not scoring enough points for this defense right here. This defense is not locked. You haven't made this defense locked down enough to justify an offense that can't score. This defense is struggling. Teams have caught up to your scheme on defense as well. Now they're just trying to get the ball out as quickly as they can because they know you just want to rush with 4. But on top of you rushing with 4, you're trying to keep everything in front of you, so you're just calling soft coverage. And don't tell me it's not by design anymore. That's a wrap. So it's coaching. Long story short, this is coaching. And now, not only are they not scoring in the red zone, not only have they had issue after issue on special teams, but now we've got guys like Deebo Samuel pushing his teammates in the face on the sideline. Not a good look. Now there's cracks showing up in the armor of the culture of this team. When you're struggling like the 49ers are struggling, this is what's going to start happening. Is we're going to I think the biggest issue for me is that it was Deebo, the guy that says that he's supposed to be a leader on this team. You cannot be a leader and pushing your guys in the face on the sidelines, berating your kicker on the side. I don't care. I don't care what people say, what he said. Oh, it wasn't that bad. You just don't do it. That's not the time. You're supposed to be a leader. Not only are you supposed to be, not is that the only reason why you shouldn't be doing it, but because you don't give effort 100% of the time. You don't make your blocks all the time. Deebo doesn't block all the time. Deebo runs halfway routes when the ball's not supposed to be going to him. So how dare you? How dare you talk about getting in anybody's face? Your offense isn't scoring points. You're not breaking tackles like you used to. Whose fault is that? They're giving you extra touches. What are you doing with them? So I look at this team. And it has gotten to the point now to where we've talked about Kyle's ego for years now. And that I think people felt like that eventually this team we were going to see, we saw a little bit in the offseason. And I can't remember the guy's name, the wide receiver that the wide receiver that was complaining in the off season, saying that certain guys were getting passes and like all the other stuff. But we were hearing the rumblings then. Kyle has to figure it out. He cannot baby some of these players anymore. And we're going to hear from Kyle in a minute because I'm going to play his interview. But it doesn't sound like that's going to change anytime soon. We're going to still keep doing the status quo. We're going to keep doing the same old things and expecting a different outcome. We're going to keep expecting different execution and not just changing up what you do to make it easier for the team that you have in front of you. You're just going to keep blaming it on the players. And at a certain point, you as a coach, there's some coaches out there that can adjust to their personnel. Kyle is not one of them. You have to adjust to Kyle at all times. And the bean counters out there are going to sit there and say it's the players, because Kyle has shown us over and over. He's shown us over and over that if they just execute the play, then this and this and this is going to happen. Okay, well, teams have found a way to cover it up and take away that first or second read. So now what? Now what? And that's where we are. And we're, like I said, we're going to hear from Kyle. We're going to hear another lack of accountability speech. We're going to hear another, and we're probably from the players. The only one I really want to hear from I'd like to hear from Purdy. We're going to hear from Purdy. I love hearing from Kittle because he's one of those accountability guys as well. I'm interested in there's another person that's Kittle. I would be interested in hearing from Bosa, but honestly, who cares? That's another guy we got to talk about today, because I love the fact that Bosa gets pressures. I was king of making excuses for Bosa, but he's got that play where Baker held him off while throwing a first down. That can't happen. That can't happen. And people are going to give him a pass and say, "Oh, well, it's the rules that he can't. If he slams somebody down, he's going to get." You have to yank that guy's arm off. Period. Point blank. There's no way that Baker Mayfield should be holding Nick Bosa off of him. Do you think that would have happened with Myles Garrett? No, it would not have. Do you think it would have happened with T.J. Watt? I guarantee you it doesn't. I love Nick Bosa and his ability, but he's got to we've got to see the animal again. We haven't seen it for a minute now. And if he doesn't get to the guy right away, then he's probably not going to get there. He might get close within a step, but it's just bad. And like I said, Baker Mayfield only got 116 yards passing, 1 touchdown. I don't entirely blame this on the defense, but at the same time, Bosa could make this game, and not just Bosa. It wasn't just Bosa. There was multiple guys missing tackles, missing sacks. Baker Mayfield should have been sacked at least 5-6 times in this game, and it just didn't happen because I don't know if guys were afraid of getting a roughing the passer, and they still ended up with roughing the passer calls. They still ended up with hands to the face calls. It's the defense. I would say that the defense, just on that one drive, they just completely let go of all the momentum they had going. And even Fred Warner, it's going to be a hard rest of the season for this team. I'm just getting y'all ready for it right now. I'm going to say what's up to a couple of guys. Jesus said no pass rush. We had a pass rush. There was definitely a pass rush out there. They just couldn't finish the job. Like I said, they should have had at least 5 or 6 sacks today, but they just couldn't finish the job. And then there was other times where it's obvious passing situations, and we didn't play. We're not playing press, so teams, and we're playing soft zone. So The guys are just able to get the ball out right away, and so the pass rush isn't going to get there. I mean, these are pretty obvious things, but it's just silliness. It's a schematic standpoint, and we know after last year that this is what Kyle wants. This defense, this style of defense. This is what Kyle wants. He wants to rush with 4, and he wants to keep everything in front of him and play basically just not get beat by the big play. But this is what's going to happen when you take 0 chances. And that bleeds over to his offense, because Kyle don't take chances on offense. Everything is easy. Make it easy for the quarterback. Let's put an artificial ceiling on what we do because this works. But because we don't vary outside of the box, if you don't risk, you don't get the reward. Every now and then you're gonna have to risk. And even when Kyle does decide to make a risk, he's not good at it. He doesn't have go-to plays like that. Everything is about the defense and about the rules of the defense and about what he thinks they're running at that moment. So if they call something different, we're SOL. And yeah, Kyle's job to tell Moody. Kyle told him. Did you see him on the sideline? He was. I'm sure that there was a lot of conversations with Moody, but Debo should not have been. Debo, that is definitely not Debo's job. And yes, he's a captain, but I definitely don't need him saying something to Moody to the point to where Tabor Pepper is going to come over and get involved. So Debo can say he didn't say anything big or it wasn't that serious, but it was enough for Tabor Pepper to come over and say something to him. And then for Debo to mush him was ridiculous, in my opinion. And Jesus says Kyle's looking at the play sheet, not coaching. And he said, okay, I hadn't even watched the interview yet. He said Kyle already said he didn't see Debo fight, no accountability by Kyle. He's not going to call out Debo. He's not going to call out Debo at all. Debo is allowed to do whatever he wants. We've seen it over and over. Like Kyle has said over again, no block, no rock. Oh, that goes for everybody else, including Ayuk. But that does not go for Debo because Debo doesn't block. Debo don't block. Debo doesn't show effort on every. He doesn't even run his routes right. 100% of the time, he doesn't do a lot of things right. And now he's not even making huge plays. He made the one play, which wasn't what. But when was the last time we've seen him just make a touchdown play? That was what was saving him before. He's not making those plays anymore. So, and I mean, honestly, none of the 49ers are. So at what point do we say, okay, you can no longer get away with this? You're not making those plays no more. We got to figure out how to get the ball. And if you're not going to block, you don't get no rock. If you're not going to run your route, just because it's not designed to you, you're not getting no rock. You can come over here and sit. And I think I remember, and I don't want to make this about Debo's this and Debo's that, but I seem to remember a lot of people in the offseason saying a lot of bean counters, a lot of people, Debo apologists saying something like, "Oh, looking at the videos, his working out videos, and saying, "Oh, Debo, great season, Debo incoming." And I said at the time, he was doing that last year. He was doing that the year before that. He always does workout videos. But you know what Debo's good for? He's good for not blocking. He's good for not running his routes. Definitely not as good as Ayuk at running his routes, but he doesn't run them at full speed. And then on top of it, he's not a leader, in my opinion. I don't care what anybody has to say about it. He's not a leader. I don't know why they want to make him a leader so bad, but he's not a leader. And Then on top of it, now you've got him shoving players in the face. At what point? At what point does it stop? Like, it's got to stop at some point. But Bebop in the house, appreciate you coming through, fam. Always a pleasure. And absolutely, and this is what I said. He's probably going to say, "Oh, I don't want an unnecessary roughness call." You can still tackle people. Like what I saw when I watched the game, nobody's grabbing jerseys. They're wrapping their arms around people, but nobody's grabbing the jersey and dragging guys to the ground. Like, they're not finding something to grab onto to drag people. And you watch the play with Bosa. He's literally has his hands on Baker, while Baker has his hand on him. He's not grabbing anything. And I that's not an excuse to me. That's not an excuse. We don't have. There's other teams out there that are playing a very physical brand of football right now. 49ers are no longer a physical football team. Can we all agree upon that? The 49ers are no longer a physical football team. They're nowhere close to the bullies that they used to be. On offense, defense, doesn't matter. They're not a physical football team. They're all predicated on the scheme. Nobody's popping anybody. You have the occasional big hit by Mustafa, the occasional nice play by Lenore, but for the most part, there's no big hits. You had the good play by Fred Warner most of the time, but there's no big hits. There's no tone setters. There's no running through tackles. There's no yak. There's no really even big plays. Like, there's really not. I mean, even the big plays aren't getting them touchdowns. So it's not working. It's not working this year. And we might say that if we could just chalk it up to this season, maybe it's a Super Bowl hangover. I tend to think that it's not. And I'm not. Before anybody says anything, I'm not calling for Kyle Shanahan's job, because that is a moot point. He's not going anywhere. All we can hope is that Kyle gets shamed to the point that he feels he needs to change something, and that it breaks through his concrete ego. Like, that's all we can hope for as fans. Period. And Bebop, I know that we need Dre back. At the same time, Devontae Campbell didn't actually play half bad today. And they still looked average. Like I said, it wasn't the defense that lost this game today. They only scored 20 points. We can no longer count on this defense to win defensive battles. I don't know if anybody else is still looking for that. But if you haven't been able to tell this season, that's not going to happen. When Trey Greenlaw comes back, it's not going to happen then either. There is no magical end all do all. Last time I heard that these red zone woes would be solved by Christian McCaffrey coming back, we're still having red zone woes, and guaranteed next game we're still going to have red zone woes. Because unless they change what they do, there's got to be a change in the philosophy. There's got to be. There has to be. This game is about results. This game is about results. You cannot keep giving excuses to coaches because this guy didn't execute. This guy didn't do this. Oh, and then this guy didn't do this. And pretty soon you're pointing at 8, 9, half the team. That comes down to coaching. You're in charge of that. You're in charge of them executing. And if they're not executing consistently, we're in week 10. Like, if they're not executing consistently, change what you're doing because they can't execute it. Like, I mean, what are you gonna do? Like, and people are gonna say, "Oh well, it's his install." The bean counters, here come the bean counters with it's his install. Like, how is he supposed? They've been practicing this stuff since the off season. Like, they can't just install blah 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 blah. There are basic plays that you could call and start playing situational football. There's absolutely things you can do to change up they're just throw in some change ups into the scheme that you could just try something. It's week 10. Christian McCaffrey is not the answer. And I'll tell you what I saw from Christian McCaffrey being in there today is that not only did it not make any difference that Christian McCaffrey was in, like I said, and I hope Beto and Brandon are watching this because he asked on his show, what was that, a week and a half ago before the bye, like, what would Christian McCaffrey make a difference? And people were thought I was crazy for saying that it wasn't going to make a difference. The reality is it's the coaching. This team is not built for what Kyle has run in the past. It's no longer, he has got to figure it out. Kyle's got to figure it out. Not the guys, Kyle. He's got to figure out that his personnel does not match what he's trying to run. And he's got a diva problem. That's the other part. You've got all these high-priced guys that have been historically consistently producing, but they're not producing. They're not producing. Debo ended up with, let's see, what did Debo end up with today? He had 3 carries for 14 yards. And he had 5 catches for 62 yards, no touchdowns at all. Is that production? And some people would say, "Oh, well, it's not Debo's fault." I mean, he's got to like, he was tackled. Okay, well then whose fault is it? Because whose fault is it that Kittle only got the ball 3 times for 57 yards, and had a touchdown, but he only got to touch the ball 3 times? Whose fault is it that Juwan Jennings is the only one getting 11 targets? Juwan Jennings got. Christian McCaffrey had more yards receiving than he did rushing. I mean, at what point are we going to say it's not working? There's too much yearning for the big play and not enough of just methodically taking it down the field and beating teams because you're just better than them. But until Kyle figures that out, we're going to be in the same spot. With all that being said, and they need a tackling tutorial. Oh, I mean, the missed tackles was terrible. Then watching them get pushed off the ball at the point of attack was terrible. Like, they didn't even have Wirfs, and they could not stop the run on those last couple of drives to save their life. And part of it is I would start to say that they were ran down. But I mean, the 49ers even won time of possession. They won the time of possession battle by like 3 minutes. Was it 3 minutes? I think it was by 3 minutes. And everything pointed, all the stats pointed to the 49ers running away with this game. The only thing that was not there was rushing stats. Rushing stats was the only area which is supposed to be Kyle's specialty. This team had a better defense in years past, and somehow we can't run the ball. We can't run the ball. But with all that, I got another thing to point out. Everybody said, "Oh well, with how Garendo showed up and showed out last game, and how Jordan Mason looked so great all season long. He's got to give. He's got now. Granted, Christian McCaffrey only had 13 carries. Why he would only have 13 carries? I mean, why we only had as a team minus Brock Purdy's scrambles? Why we only had 18 carries as a team? I don't know. Because we're talking about a 3-point game. The 49ers only won the game by 3 points. At no point was this game a runaway. And we're gonna talk. I know that we're gonna talk about fronts and what they were showing, but I feel like you need to figure out how to get the running game going. As a coach, you need to figure out. You're supposed to be the genius. Like, you need to figure out how to get the running game going. It's wild to me that we insert the offensive player of the year from last year, and all of a sudden we can't get any running game going. And I'm wondering, I want to look at this real quick because I have a feeling. Let's look at the game before this against the Chiefs. Oh, team stats. Passing, rushing. The Chiefs ran the ball 35 times against them the week prior. 35 times. Now, granted, they averaged 3-point-something yards a carry, but yeah, this was a team that Kareem Hunt put up 106 yards on. They gave up 124 yards rushing. And is Brock Purdy Patrick Mahomes? Did they have to honor Purdy like Mahomes? No. Absolutely not. It's not just player for player, team for team. I get that. But you should be able to take advantage of them playing the run like that. If that's what they're doing. If the front is showing this, you've got to be able to take advantage of that somehow, some way. And this offense is not taking advantage of them showing those types of fronts at all. They're just blitzing the hell out of Purdy. Oh, but this is a team that didn't even blitz. That was not even blitzing as much this season. But they knew to blitz the hell out of Purdy. And Purdy, I know Purdy has this, that, and whatever stat line against the blitz, but he not scoring touchdowns. Now, granted, he had 2 today, but for the most part, he hadn't been scoring touchdowns. So, of course, that's what they're going to do. They're going to keep doing what works. There's tape out there. So, it's multifactorial. I am going to watch this game again, but I want to get to some of these. I wanted to answer some of these comments. I mean, we're saying Mooney being out didn't help, but they only had 116 yards passing. So I think Renardo Green played excellent. Even in run support, I felt like he played really well. So I don't even think that was an issue. And Jesus said Baker was countering the blitz. He only had 116 yards passing. Their offense wasn't doing anything until the end of the game. Like, really. The 49ers shot themselves in the foot, let them down the field with a whole bunch of penalties, and their offense wasn't doing enough to justify them even being close to the 49ers. This defense didn't do half bad, but the offense didn't support them really at all. And not just the offense. It was because we'll talk about special teams again. We missed 3 field goals. This game should have really been just like Kyle. We're going to hear from Kyle in a minute, but I believe he said something to the effect that we had multiple opportunities. He even admitted that they had multiple opportunities to blow the game open, and they just didn't get them. So, and absolutely, Bebop, Brock was clutch at the end. I don't put this entirely on Brock, but Brock didn't play his greatest, even though he had a great stat line. Like he missed a few wide open guys as well. And yes, a win is a win. But how many times do you think we're going to have wins playing like this, playing this sloppy brand of football? It's even when the 49ers were 3-5 that one year, they still had an identity. They were just dealing with some injuries. They were dealing with some unfortunate. They were dealing with injuries at the quarterback spot, especially. Like, that's not the case this year. This is not the same. Whether people want to own up to it or not, this is not the same. And even the 49ers are telling you exactly who they are. So I'm not going to go on and on and on and on. I've already gone on enough for 40 minutes now about how I feel about this team right now and how I feel about the coaching staff. I think the coaching staff has done this roster a disservice. I just think that it's honestly kind of pitiful. It's kind of pitiful, like what has happened so far this year. I just think it's a lack of care, a lack of effort, a lack of a lot of things, a lack of accountability. Number one, and hopefully it's not too late. We are 5-4, so there's a chance that they could click at any moment, and Kyle could figure it out, and we could get back on track. It's always possible, but not without accountability. And it starts with Kyle. So, and the bean counters can go somewhere, because I'm sure that they're all going to come back and say it's not Kyle's fault. I don't care. Your opinion is no better than anybody else's. And Jesus says, I don't mind Debo calling out players, going after players who are being lazy or being garbage, but not a kicker. I have a problem with it because Debo's lazy. I don't care what anybody has to say about it. So they're going to say, "Oh, you're not a football player and you're not in the NFL." I know effort when I see it. Debo doesn't show effort. I can show you multiple plays where he is taking plays off, where he doesn't block, and he has missed blocks blatantly, and where he is out of the game after a couple of runs. We're talking about this man is in the gym and he's doing all this work, but yet and still he's constantly on the sideline and huffing and puffing. Like, the best ability is availability, and Debo just doesn't always have that. So I have a problem with him calling out people when he's not available. I have a problem when he's not running his routes. I have a problem with him calling out anybody when he's not blocking. So if that makes me not a fan, then so be it. But I'm going to call it out. Yeah, exactly. The 20. Yeah, it's oh, here comes throwback. Throwback in the house. Appreciate you coming through, fam. I agree with that. He's a good coach, but he's not. And we've all said that. I refuse to call him a genius until he gets over the. A genius is a label that's saved for the elite. You're not a genius if you can't get over the hump. And it's one thing when it's not. It's one thing when you get close and some things happen and you can't get over the hump. And then okay, maybe a second time. And even then maybe a third time. But when it's a consistent issue and now the you can't adjust, you can't find a way to adjust and turn around the fortunes of your team. You got your win today. I get that. But that team was limping into their bye week. And you could not put up a better performance that you should have eradicated that team. Period. And Throwback says it's not working and it's catching up to him. Seems like he doesn't care about winning and fine with being okay on special teams and defense ducking. Uh, I feel like the defense is trying. They're flying all over the place. They're just not completing that. They're just not making tackles. They're missing tackles. They're in position sometimes, but sometimes they're just flying by the plate. And that happened multiple times in this game where guys are just going upfield and the play is going right by them. And it's wild. Like I can't really I honestly I can't explain it. I feel like people have figured out what the 49ers are trying to do on defense and we just can't adjust. We can't adjust. I think that and this could have been part of the reason why Kyle did not mesh with old guy last year was because he probably saw the writing on the wall and saw that the scheme is outdated. We need to switch it up. And he was trying to slowly but surely kind of work some of those concepts, but Kyle not trying to hear it. Kyle wants what Kyle wants. Yeah, like Wilkes, I don't know. I can't say for sure if that's the case. But and I've said I don't think Wilkes is a bad coach. I've always said that it just wasn't a good fit. And the issue because I do think that Wilkes was a good coach. He had a great resume coming in. So but it comes back down to Kyle. You got to bow down and kiss the ring. If you don't bow down and kiss the ring, like it's not going to work for Kyle. So, um, oh, Rick Diaz in the house. Appreciate you coming through, fam. The 3 field goals he missed, that's not good. That's bad. The 49ers cannot be playing like this. Is the rest of the regular season, maybe the playoffs? I don't know about this. I'm gonna say the same thing I just said. Like the reality of the situation is that they have to pivot. He has to pivot at some point. He has to try something different, and I don't even care what it is, to be honest. And it's not, and I don't think it's a complete flip of the offense because they're moving the ball. They're moving the ball, but they're stalling drives. We're having we're talking about execution of plays, but yeah, penalties are killing in the most inopportune of times. This week it was the defensive penalties that killed us, but it's been offensive penalties in the past. It's always something. Special teams is a disaster. And yet at some point, as the head coach, you have to take responsibility. And we still have yet to hear Kyle take responsibility. Maybe we're gonna hear it right now because I'm about to play that I'm about to play you his interview, and we're going to see what Kyle has to say. Jeez.
For Jake to come back at the last one to, there's much. All right, guys. Can you shut that mic? Injuries from the game. Renato Green left with a toe injury, didn't return. That's all we have for now.
A lot had to be said in that locker room. Can you kind of summarize the message you had there?
I basically said I knew they were going to be ready to play. Our guys were. We had a great week of practice, but I was just glad that they were ready to battle because that game was a battle. I told them last night, don't expect this game to be fun. It's going to be grimy out there. It's going to be sticky. This team that is playing too desperate. It's a good team that's lost some games, some close ones, and they're a day before their bye week. So we knew we were going to get their best shot. I thought we had opportunities to run away with it. We didn't. That was on us. But I was so proud of the guys in all three phases, how they rebounded. Just the struggles, those two struggles in the red zone, coming back and making that big one by Brock and Kittle there. I think it was second goal from the 10. The struggles on special teams, mainly with the missed field goals for Jake to come back at the last one. There's much pressure on him as you could imagine on anyone with missing those three in the game, and for him to drill that was huge. And even I didn't put the muff punt on Jake. He's got to catch it, but just Lude get in his way. He's got to get out of his way. That's a problem. But him to come back and make a big play, returning it later. And the defense, who I thought was solid all game, but those huge penalties on that last drive, to have those, you can just see the way it's going. For them to still hold them to a field goal, I thought was huge. And it gave us a chance to answer there at the end.
What's your take after this field goal where Evo to get into it with Moody and Taylor Pepper seeing kind of this altercation?
I don't have much of a take because I didn't see any of it, so I just got told about it. But probably an obvious one. Guys frustrated, and something probably happened, and brother scuffle a little bit. I didn't see any of it, so I don't know how bad it was, but something I'm not too worried about. We'll fix it. If it hasn't been fixed already, we'll fix it on the plane, and we'll go back to loving each other tomorrow.
Obviously, you had to go with there on the last field goal, but what was your confidence level going in there that he was going to make it, and what did you think was going wrong for him?
I had great confidence all week in him. Confidence is built off of how guys look during the week, and he looked great in the week. And he made some field goals today, but the one he missed was just a little bit left. Looked like the next one he missed was the exact same kick, a little bit left. Then it looked like he overcompensated for those misses and missed the exact same way, a little bit to the right, and fixed that a little bit, and it just went into the right on the last one. So you're only as good as your.
He just said it. He almost missed the game winner. Let's just be real about it. He almost missed the game winner. The guy was rancid today, period.
Last kick, so he did a hell of a job winning that game for us at the end.
Were you told anything about the muff that it seemed like he was walked directly into penalties? That permissible?
Yeah, that's allowed. It doesn't seem like it at first, so I react the same way, but that's allowed to do. They're allowed to do that. Sorry, what's that?
How did Christian come out of the game? What did you think?
He came out great, which was huge. We knew it was going to be hard, but to load manage him, as I think everyone says in the media, I just say not play him as much. But I thought we did that in the first half. We did a couple series and stuff. In the second half, it got away from us a little bit. I think we only had one drive in that whole third quarter. Didn't have as many possessions, and we weren't taking him out in the fourth, and he didn't need to be taken out. He just talking to him, he felt great, and going to be pumped to have him back next week.
Thoughts on Ricky's game?
You did take him out on first and goal on your first possession of the third quarter, on first and goal and second and goal. I was just wondering, how can you take him out?
Just because we had a drive and we were getting him out on two plays, we wanted to make sure we had him in on third down, and just got in a bad situation there on second down. If this is the one I'm thinking of right, just busted a protection and got a sack, and then we just finished it with a drive. So I don't even know if we put him in for the screen. Finished it with a screen, but that was just us surrendering.
Thoughts on Ricky's game today? Huge game today. Touchdown catch, 2 big grabs on the game-winning drive. Thoughts on his play?
Ricky was awesome. He made the plays he needed to when we went to him. Scoring a touchdown on that, he beat his guy in coverage, and then made a great catch and scoring points there. It's huge, not making us have to do anything on the 3 or 1. I know it was close, but great job getting in, and his hands on the last drive. I know he got the out route, which was a big one, but the dagger that he caught was a huge one that got us down there.
Got to say something about shout out to Ricky Pearsall. Shout out to Jawan Jennings, third and Jawan. Both of them, I felt they played really well. And I can't wait to watch the All-22 because I really feel like Ricky Pearsall was balling. And I think that the man his struggles in press man are a little bit exaggerated. Because what I saw today was a scrappy wide receiver that still can route people up and plays with some heart. So yeah, shout out to those guys because they were the ones that got this team really like. I mean, Debo made his play, and there was some, and Kittle of course made a couple of plays, but to see the Rook be scrappy like that was nice. And then of course Juwan is always scrappy. So but I thought those two kind of stood out to me, even though the other guys might have had a little bit more yards. I really was impressed with what I saw from Ricky Pearsall.
Jawan Jennings long pitch. Why not take a timeout in that situation?
Which one?
About 40 seconds left in the first half.
So we could save one. I mean, we only had one left, right?
Yeah.
Huh?
First half.
You're talking at the end?
Yeah.
At the first half?
First half.
Just so we could, I mean, do we run out of time there at the end?
No, you kick it.
Yeah, I mean, we plan on the drive going longer. If we're going to go 3 and out after that play, then that'd be good. But I'd love to be able to run the ball, be able to overcome things, be able to, if you get a penalty, not get a 10-second runoff. We didn't feel time was an issue.
Did you have any instructions to Brock before that last drive? And talk to you at all?
No, I don't want to mess with the kicker. What am I going to say to him? You better make it. Does that help or does that hurt? I have no idea. And Brock I didn't talk to either. You want him to play normal football. I don't want to go to him and be aggressive, but don't be if it looks bad so we don't give it back. Because you have overtime, you're going for the win. And he did. We had some real good plays. I mean, just with Juwan, I think, to start the drive, and I think it went to Ricky. Some good quick outs. And then we got the big explosive on the dagger, which was huge. And he was awesome in the second half there. Yeah, it was. Yeah, everything went well. It was smooth. What's that? Oh, huge. Juwan's been a stud all year. He's been a stud his whole career here, but especially losing BA, we needed to get Juwan back in a starting position, and this is his first time ever playing X position, which he'll be doing the rest of the year. So he did a hell of a job. I don't think anything's really going on, but he did miss a few throws in the first half, just being a little bit off, and cost us on a couple ones. But the way he came back in the second half was huge. He had some big time. That one to Christian down the sidelines because we had a busted protection. He actually threw it so early. I didn't think it was a good throw. I didn't know why he threw it so early until I saw the pictures and saw we busted a protection. So he had to get rid of it so early and put some touch on it, which gave Christian a chance to get under it. So that was huge. The throw to Kittle on 2nd and goal from the 10 in the corner of the end zone, that was huge. Reminded me of what he did on 3rd and goal from the 10 versus Seattle to kind of get us out of our red zone lulls. And he did the same thing here today and was awesome on the last drive. The teammate went after Moody or Pepper? I mean, this is the first time I've had it all described to me, so it's not that I don't trust you, but I'm going to wait to see it on my own eyes and talk to the guys, but... I mean, I don't think the pressure of people of getting shoved with a helmet on or something is much of it. I think when it all comes down to you and everyone's dependent on you, there's a lot of pressure on that guy. Even if he hits 6 in a row today and it all comes down to him at the last one and he misses that. It's why you're only as good as your last kick. You're only as good as your last throw. You're only as good as your last game. It was great practice for himself to put himself in a situation like that and to come through. I think that does add confidence to guys, so they've been there before. But I'm proud of how he made that at the end. guys good? All right, guys.
All right. Now, it's kind of funny to me. It's kind of funny to me how I know that Kyle kind of plays this kind of role of being aloof, and he kind of makes light of situations as far as and I know that this means on Twitter tomorrow everybody is going to be like, "Oh, Kyle was acting like it's not a big deal. So why would you think it's a big deal? He's earned the right to uh it's his he knows more football than you ever will, and all the things that are going to be said. Because it's completely predictable what people are going to say. But at the same time, they're 5-4. And you can say what you want to, but that is we didn't see that before. We haven't seen that happen before on the 49ers sideline. When was the last time we saw a 49er player push another one in the face mask? When was the last time we saw that? Can anybody tell me? I don't think I've ever seen it under the Kyle regime. And it's got to be that is not just a blip. I think it's a bigger thing than people are going to make of it. But I'm going to be keeping an eye, and I'm going to be updating on if I see anything else that I feel like could be some cracks in the armor of this culture, because that is something that I have really praised Kyle and Lynch on is the culture that they built, and that's not something that we've seen. So to me, that's a little that chip in the armor, in my opinion. But the other part is Kyle being aloof about how many kicks Moody missed, and making it seem like it's just, oh well, you're only good at your last kick. I was really proud that he made the last one. Well, of course you were. If he had missed it, then I don't know. It might have been a different conversation. But you would have still probably said, well, he looked great all week. I would have known that, just not wanting to take responsibility for putting him in there. And that's everything Kyle says is kind of like that. It's like, well, I don't know. How am I supposed to know if blah, 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 blah. Just say, it's okay, Kyle. You can say, that's not something. You could even word it if you just word it differently and just said something to the effect of, that's never something that we want. He's trying as hard as he can, but he just wasn't making him out there today. That's something that we've got to work on with him and help him out. How hard is that? How hard is that to say? But Kyle cannot do it. He's not going to put it on, and I'm not saying he's supposed to put all the things on himself, but he never puts anything on himself is the problem. And that's the issue for me. But before we get out of here, I do want to play the Purdy, and I want to play Purdy and Kittle's interviews. So let's look at.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's not like our favorite to be in that kind of position, but that's the NFL. We're going to be playing games like this, and for us to be able to pull together as a team, defense get a stop, offense move the ball, and then special teams finish. It feels good to finish it out. Obviously, there's some stuff that we all would like to clean up, but to come down here and off our bye and get a win is huge.
Locker room was closed a little extra longer. I'm sure there's a lot to talk about after this game, so kind of get the overall message.
Yeah, I mean, we just sort of hit on all the components of the game, and Kyle telling us what the difference is with offense in the first half. We had opportunities to go and score, and then second half we were on, but we still have to capitalize and finish. And then some special teams mishaps and stuff like that happened throughout the game. But at the end of the day, we took care of the ball, and we were able to finish as a team at the end, which is what matters in the NFL. So.
What was your level of confidence after Jason Mississippi don't in the end? Nervous?
No, I knew he was going to hit it. Just who he is and what he's done for us. We've literally seen him, hit some really big kicks in his career, and obviously at practice and stuff, we've seen what he's capable of. And so for him to be in that moment, obviously I knew that he's the kind of guy that would learn from his kind of mistakes, and then when it mattered most, finish, and that's what he did. So.
Easy to say.
Obviously, it's we talk about the field goal range where we have to get to, and then after that, it's do my job, be smart, don't take a sack in the 2 minute, and just take what the defense gives me, and understand that we have one timeout, and just get completions and move the ball and be smart in that regard. So that's what was going through my mind, going through my progressions, keeping it simple as possible, and just trying to execute, throw, and catch.
I think two more guys looked in his first game back and just having his impact on the game and on the offense, just having him on the field.
I think it was awesome. Just what he can do, running the ball and then coming out of the backfield in our pass game. We had multiple plays with him, out of the backfield that were some big plays, throwing the ball. And then, for defenses, man, they have to scheme that up. They have to acknowledge him, which can open up some other guys. And I thought at the end we had one-on-one opportunities where we saw Ricky Pearsall winning, and there's guys that are now one-on-one and can win matchups. And so for us as an offense, we know that. But more than anything, man, just seeing how gritty and tough he is, we're like, we get behind him. We're like, he inspires us, and he keeps us, all sort of going and lights that fire in our huddle.
I got to say this about that. So I'm watching the game, and there was at least 2 or 3 of the times that he threw to Christian McCaffrey that he never looked anywhere else. It was all Christian McCaffrey. He stared him down the entire route. And we saw quite a few times where Guerendo, whether it be Guerendo or JP Mason, have been wide open, and he won't even look their way. So I just think it opens up when people start talking and calling Brock a check down merchant and like all that kind of stuff. It's sometimes you just have to, you got to trust the guys that are in there. And I don't think it's fair to JP Mason and Guerendo that they weren't even looked at. They were open. People are going to say they're not as good as Christian McCaffrey, but they were open. There was been a bunch of times where they were open. Look at the film. And he just didn't throw it to him. They weren't the read. But yet and still, Christian McCaffrey is the read every single time. And you're just expecting him to be open. Eventually, that's going to bite you. Because he's saying that it opens up things for other players, but there was no different result today than what has been happening all season long. They still were going down the field, and they were not converting in the red zone. Now he had two throwing touchdowns, but I find it weird that and going back to the Shanahan interview, that not one reporter asked them why they got away from the run game. They only ran the ball 18 times. 18 times for a 49er offense. They only ran the ball 18 times. And people will say that's load managing for Christian McCaffrey. Okay, you've got 2 other running backs on the roster that have proven that they can be effective at the very least. JP Mason was the number 2 rusher in the league just a couple of weeks ago. Like, why are we not using those weapons? it's kind of weird to me. Like the whole thought process on the 49ers running backs. But I'll let him continue.
So it's huge having him in there.
Last one.
Your numbers were to start out, but there was some instances early on. Did you feel out of rhythm, and what did it take to kind of get back in throughout the game?
Yeah, definitely felt out of rhythm, to start the game, and not really sure what it was. But I know second half, I just told myself that, all right, dude, just go out and compete and rip it. Don't hesitate. And, I thought second half we all did that. The guys were open. I didn't hold back. And we just try to stay ahead of the chains and move the ball and keep it simple. And so that was the biggest part. And understand that it's a four-quarter game for a reason. What happens early on can affect you right now in the present. So that was my mindset, and I thought we were all able to finish pretty well as a team.
All right, thanks, guys. We got to go. Nick's right here. We got Ricky as well.
Oh, I do want to hear from Ricky.
Your first touchdown is what you saw in the race to the finish line.
Yeah, for sure. I think it was a drive before that. We had a similar route. I had an in-breaker, and it was a pass breakup on that one. It was a little behind me in the same spot, and the DB broke it up. So we definitely wanted to get that one back. So I had a similar route to that. Me personally, I wanted to get it back. And so on that one, we connected on that. And then after that, it was just, make a play with the ball in my hands, get in the end zone, get my first tub. So that was the mindset on that.
Kyle, Juice got to the ball.
You said what?
Juice got to the ball, the touchdown ball.
Oh, yeah. Somebody came over and handed it to me.
Thanks for it.
Probably just hang it up somewhere in the room. I probably should start a little memorabilia area in my room or something. So.
Can you talk about the pressure on the final drive of just having to perform in that situation and no one knows what's at stake and that you guys still were in it?
Yeah, for sure. I think, there's always pressure. I don't think, it's too much. Just the way you got to handle it. And I think, we got the guys on our squad, that are able to handle it and go out there and make plays. And, our coaches put us in the right position, and, we go out there and execute.
Huge game by you, obviously. This is your third career game. Are you feeling more and more comfortable with each passing reading defensively?
Yeah, for sure. I think the most important thing is just continue to develop that trust with Brock. I think the reason the pass was a little bit behind me on that first drive is because I cut it short. So, just getting on the same page on that, and, it's just going to get much and much better. And I got more and more confidence going into it. So.
How beneficial do you think it was for you to be a part of it?
I gotta say, I love that bailing out your quarterback, and I love the fact. And you got to think about this too, as well, that Brock mentioned him and how good he was playing as well. So I think that this is going to be a connection we're going to see more of in the future.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, being back in this Florida heat, we knew it was going to be one of those grimy games, and it came down to the wire. So, it was just about, what team was going to battle the most at the end. And I think, we had a little bit more fight in the end, and we pulled out with it. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
What's up, guys?
Honestly, I don't want to talk to Christian McCaffrey. He's going to say a bunch of player speak, and I don't really want to hear it. I don't want to hear from Fred either because I'm kind of mad at him right now. He missed a couple of tackles and had a penalty, the key penalty that helped there. Oh, but I do want to hear from
It's a matter of just continuing to keep his head down and keep working.
All right. Thank you,
All right, guys.
Hi, Fred.
Hello. We're actually just waiting for Brock to get off his off-the-field interviews. That's literally what it was. Yeah, we all sat there for an extra 10 minutes. Yeah.
Did Shanahan say anything to you, and what did you characterize what was said?
Whenever we have these trips and we play at 1 o'clock, it's 10 a.m. kickoff for us. All he ever really tells us is, I just want you guys to go out there, ignore the fact that it's 10 a.m. our time, and just go out there and fight and, go off on every single play. And he was just proud of us that, we showed up and we battled. It wasn't very pretty all the time. We have to score in the red zone better than that. Our defense probably, the Bucks offense was moving the ball a little bit with a couple, not great special teams plays. But being able to deal with all of that and still come out with a win, those are that reminds me of like 2019. Like, it's not going to be pretty, but you just have to find ways to win, no matter how ugly they are sometimes. And it was just kind of fun to watch all of our receivers kind of run wild. That was really fun to see. Ricky with a hell of a day, and Christian McCaffrey's still pretty good at football. Good for us.
Your touchdown pass score, same spot as New England, but this one obviously a little bit more off schedule.
Yeah, a little bit. That was fun. You want me to talk about it?
Yeah, I mean, you looked like you were cutting in the middle, then he stopped rocking.
Yeah. My only responsibility on that play was to get covered by the safety so Christian could score a touchdown. And so I got covered. Christian didn't score. And I'm just kind of trying to find Brock in the back, which is, it's hard to see sometimes because like one of his only shortcomings is that he's not the tallest quarterback. He's just hard to see sometimes. But like one thing I love with Brock and scramble drills, like if you do lock eyes with him, like he is going to give you time to make a move and get open. And so he did. Once we locked eyes, I just tried to give him space in the corner of the end zone, and he just dropped a dime like he always does. How long was he out? How many weeks did he miss? Like 4, 5 weeks? Yeah. So I have a ton of confidence in Jake. He made it, like, I'm pretty sure he made all of his field goals all the week of practice. I think coming back as a kicker, the whole thing's mental, right? Like, he has the leg, he can kick 60-yarders, but like the whole thing's mental. And for him just to go out there and make all of his PATs, which is huge, but like to miss it left, to miss it right, like just to come back and kick that one. I mean, I don't want to be in that guy's head for that last kick because I bet you anybody in that situation would be sweating bullets. And for him just to go out there and kick it right down the middle, I think it was. I wasn't watching really. I decided not to watch kicks. And for him to do that, it's just awesome. I'm very happy for him because I think that's just going to give him a ton of confidence moving forward. And watch next week. Hopefully he's only 100% on extra points. We only score touchdowns.
Two more guys.
I made this decision like, I think it was like 2018 or 19. Like the one that I stood up and watched, Robbie like missed it, and like Robbie Gold never misses kicks. So I was like, I'm just going to stop watching kicks, like from standing up. So I usually just sit down. And then for some reason I stood up and I watched, and Jake missed the first one. And I was like, what am I doing? This is my fault. Because I'm very superstitious, a little, yeah. And so now I just sit down, like I'll watch the board, but like I don't watch the live rep of it. I have issues, man. I'm sorry.
With Christian back, you guys all talk a lot about like kind of gravity and he has. Do you feel that in a game like, you know, just different in terms of what teams are doing in terms of coverage and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, when he's out there, it's hard to like double cover anybody because if you do that, then you're leaving Christian one-on-one on a linebacker most of the time. And so he opens that area up for us, and like you can see it too. Like if you go back and watch the tape, any pass plays that we had where, and it's nothing against like Jordan Mason or Isaac. It's just Christian can run every single route, and you see the deep routes that he has, all the checkdowns that he gets. You can't double team anybody else because you have to help on Christian, and so that opens up a ton of stuff for the wide receivers, myself, Debo, and so he makes everyone else's life much easier, including Buccs.
All right, thanks guys. Right here, will be our last one.
And I get that. I understand like that whole part of it, but at the same time, you've still got to hit the open guy, and they weren't hitting the open guys prior. So, and maybe if you hit the other guys a few times, it creates enough of a threat to where it does the same thing for y'all in the first place. So I don't take that as an excuse, but I hope he's right about Moody. I hope he's right. I hope next game he comes in and he's just hitting PATs because they figured out the touchdown issue. But to me, on George's face, it looks like he's tired of not scoring touchdowns in the red zone, and he's definitely tired of talking about it. So, is there anybody else? Oh, I definitely don't want to talk to Bosa. I don't want to hear any of his excuses anymore. So, all right. We are going to get out of here. I have, once again, make sure you get the video. Make sure that you give it a subscribe. Make sure that you hit the bell so you get the notifications for when I go live. And I will be back on Tuesday hopefully with Beto. And regardless, I'm going to be back on Tuesday. I have the week off from work. I am sorry. I want to apologize to all the people that watch my show. for the last 2 weeks that I've missed because there was craziness going on at my actual job, but hopefully I don't foresee it happening again for the rest of this season. So, but I appreciate it for everybody coming out to watch today, and yeah, you can catch us on YouTube, you can catch us on Facebook, you can catch us on Twitter, you can catch us on Twitch. I don't care where you get it, just get it, and make sure that you tell a friend to tell a friend so we can be friends. I can't say that one anymore because of Diddy, but just tell people about the show, and we are going to get more energetic. We going to come up with some stuff, and realistically speaking, the 49ers are always fun to talk about. I say, as much as I ranted about them today, and as much as I was disappointed by the performance today, this is still our team. This is still our team. We're still hoping that they make it to the playoffs and they make a run. So we're still going to be cheering this team on. I want to see this team do well, and I know you all do too. But I will hopefully see. Well, I will definitely see you on Tuesday. Hopefully, Beto and Brandon will be with me, and yeah, we get to it. But as always, we're gonna get out of here. But as always, and forever, go Niners.